Welcome back to another edition of Viper Bites, and we are going to continue our free agency tour through the 2022 offseason with the next stop in Duval County to talk about Christian Kirk and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, before we go any further into this, make sure to see those thumbs up there. Hit that thumbs up, hit that like button, and make sure you are subscribed to the Vipers Network on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever podcasting platform that may be, make sure to take a second to rate and review us. So now let's get right into free agency here, as we've seen so far through the first month of the 2022 calendar year. And when free agency kicked off way back on March 14th, one of the first dominoes to fall was Christian Kirk, whom the Jacksonville Jaguars signed shortly after they added guys like Falcons linebacker Oluokun and Washington guard Brando Schereff to kind of give the Jacksonville Jaguars a little bit of a, hey, here we are, listen to us, we are ready to roar here in 2022. Now, it really shouldn't have surprised anyone that Jacksonville was a major player when it came to free agency. They had several holes that they needed to fill. And when I say several, I may be underestimating what that number may have been. And hey, they had plenty of money to do so. They had some of the most cap room of any team in the National Football League heading into this free agency period. The addition of Schereff should give Trevor Lawrence a little bit more comfortable pocket there throughout the offseason there. And hey, if you're comfortable in the pocket there, you need some targets, some safety blankets, if you will. And the Jaguars, they definitely added some notable players in the passing game. Now, for whatever reason, the Jaguars, they didn't see DJ Chark as one of those pieces in this receiving game moving forward. And really, they don't really seem all that interested or invested in Laviska Shenault outside of the draft capital they paid on him a couple of years ago. They don't really believe him to be a focal point of this offense. Enter Christian Kirk, who they brought over from the desert to the beach. And hey, here's what we're talking about. $20 million signing bonus, $37 million upfront on a 4-year, $84 million deal. That's the max value. It's only 72, but hey, you got $1 million roster bonus that comes on the 5th day of the 2024 league, which serves as kind of the trigger. Hey, an extra $1 million bonus, especially when you're in Jacksonville, no state tax in Florida. So that's a big time thing for the Jaguars. And maybe it's something that helped bring Christian Kirk over to Jacksonville when it's all said and done. Now, hey, Davante Adams, Tyreek Hill, they reset the market, but it was Christian Kirk that kind of got that ball rolling for all these wide receivers to get paid this offseason. So Adams, Tyreek Hill, your contracts that superseded what Christian Kirk got in this offseason. You can thank Christian Kirk and his agent for helping you get that payday. We've seen wide receivers on the move so far this offseason. We've seen Amari Cooper. We've seen the mentioned Davante Adams and when Tyreek Hill trades go down. The free agent market for wide receivers hasn't been as fruitful as the trade market has been. There's the Christian Kirk deal, great on that. Mike Williams with the Chargers, 3 years, $20 million per. Allen Robinson, 3 years, $15 million per. And then you go down to guys like Marquez Valdes-Scantling, 3 years, $10 million per season, as well as Russell Gage, 3 years, $10 million. And then another drop-off because Jacksonville, they made another play for another wide receiver in former Vegas receiver Zay Jones, who they got for 3 years, up to $30 million. Cedric Wilson, Miami, 3 years, $7.35 million. Then there's DJ Chark, 1 year, $10 million. And perhaps the biggest one here, Juju Smith-Schuster, 1 year, $3.25. And he promises not to do any TikTok videos. Hey, just a little enlightening here as we're talking about how young and how good Christian Kirk could be. Juju Smith-Schuster is like actually 4 days younger, which is kind of weird when you really think about it. What does Christian Kirk bring to the Jaguars? We know they've already got Marvin Jones. They've already got Laviska Shenault. Those are both already in place. The Jags also went off and got a couple more pass catchers in the aforementioned there, Zay Jones. They also went off and got Evan Ingram from the New York Football Giants. And yes, Dan Arnold is still there. So let's put a little respect on Dan Arnold's name. And we know that Doug Peterson, he loves himself multiple tight ends. And hey, you know what? This Jaguars team, they did some work here. Let me know below, before we go any further, what wide receiver signing do you think is the best so far to date? Is it Juju? Is it Gage? Is it Marquez Valdes-Scantling? Allen Robinson? The Chargers retaining Mike Williams? Or is it Christian Kirk? Let me know below. In 4 seasons in Arizona, Christian Kirk has never surpassed 1,000 yards. Not even once. Then again, Robert Woods, he never hit 1,000 yards when he was in Buffalo before he went for that big payday in Los Angeles. So, hey, if you're looking for a little bit of positive reinforcement here in Christian Kirk and then coming to Jacksonville, maybe look no further than the career path, the trajectory of one Robert Woods. When he signed in Jacksonville, Christian Kirk made sure to tweet out there right off the get-go, been doubted since I first stepped in the league. Nothing new to me. Okay? So you know Christian Kirk, he believes in what he brings to the table. You know Christian Kirk has faith in what his abilities are. Looking at the numbers in those 4 seasons in the desert in Arizona, 237 receptions, 358 targets, 2,902 receiving yards to go along with 17 touchdowns. Now, 2021 was Kirk's best season to date. 77 catches on 103 targets. Yes, we know DeAndre Hopkins missed some time, but we also know that Kyler Murray also missed some time, and Colt McCoy stepped in under center. DeAndre Hopkins, he played in only 10 games, so if we want a little reference point, that is it. But Christian Kirk, 982 yards, 5 touchdowns. It was the second most targets and touchdowns of his career and the most receptions and most receiving yards that he has had at any point. So, you know what? The trajectory appears to be going up for Christian Kirk as far as a receiver in this game. So let's look at some of these other numbers, especially pertaining to 2021. He was wide receiver 26 in PPR. His 60% contested catch rate was 5th. He had 2.02 fantasy points per target, which ranked 12th. And his 1,158 air yards was tied for 26th. Not receiving yards, air yards. Definitely something worth to keep monitoring on that one. Now, Jacksonville, for all their woes, especially in the receiving game, they were 22nd in passing yards per game with 202.1 per contest. Yeah, so we know they needed to address the wide receiver position. That said, Marvin Jones led the way for the Jags last year in receiving yards, 832, receptions with 73, targets 104, and touchdowns with 4. All things that Christian Kirk was much better in, at least statistically speaking. Now, you know I love myself some Marvin Jones, so there'll be no Marvin Jones slander on this show. And we also know that Marvin Jones may have benefited from DJ Chark only playing in 4 games. And 4 games, well, let's call it 3.5, to be honest with you. Also, Laquan Treadwell was 3rd in receiving yards on the Jags. So, yeah, 434 yards. Now, let's take another look a little bit deeper into the analytics here of the 2021 season. Target separation stats. Marvin Jones, 1.36 yards, was ranked 99th in the league. Laviska Shenault, 1.52 yards, was ranked 82nd, while Laquan Treadwell, 1.65, was ranked 54th. Dan Arnold, you know we love you on this show. 1.45, that was ranked 33rd. Now, Christian Kirk, 1.77, that was ranked 28th amongst wide receivers. Zay Jones, 1.91, was ranked 14th, while Evan Ingram's 2.01 was actually ranked 7th. More analytics? I got you covered. I got facts. I got numbers. We could talk this all day. Per Dwayne McFarland, the new Jaguars receiving core versus single coverage in 2021, 62% for Christian Kirk. Out of 82 qualifiers, that ranked 13th. 60% for Laviska Shenault, 15th amongst those 82 qualifiers. 54% for Zay Jones, 31st. 53% for Marvin Jones, 35th. 41% for Evan Ingram, 73rd. Now, also, according to PFF, Christian Kirk, deep receiving 20-plus yards downfield last season, 12 catches were the 7th most in the National Football League. The 399 yards that he accumulated in those receptions was good for 9th. What kind of receiver is Christian Kirk? Hey, he's not a guy who's going to shy away from going over the middle and making those tough contested catches. He's going to go in there. He's tough, and he's reliable as anyone in the league. You know when he's going to get hit, he's going to get up. He's going to make plays. That is who Christian Kirk is. He's also played behind some pretty good receivers throughout his career. In 3 years with Kyler Murray, and then obviously the year before Kyler Murray got there, he had opportunities to play with Larry Fitzgerald, Hall of Famer. AJ Green, probably a Hall of Famer. DeAndre Hopkins, another potential Hall of Famer. 3 potential Hall of Fame wide receivers, which he had an opportunity to learn the game from. Now, I'm not sure if he's going to get that nice contract bump that we saw from Robert Woods, but the Jaguars are putting together a much improved roster, and one that I believe that Christian Kirk will certainly help a young Trevor Lawrence succeed in his 2nd season. I don't know if success is going to follow Christian Kirk, but I'm not betting against it. Now, I do believe in dynasty football, we want to acquire good players. And while I don't have quite the read on what Christian Kirk could possibly be, I know the potential is there for him to succeed. The pieces are there. This Jacksonville offense is looking much better than it had in previous years, and he has the opportunity now. He's no longer in the DeAndre Hopkins shadow. He's no longer competing with A.J. Green as far as targets go in the desert. When we look at this closer, Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault. Marvin Jones is what I would call an aging asset, whether you like to call it that or not. Laviska Shenault has not earned the trust of Jacksonville brass. So your real competition for targets is a guy like Evan Ingram, who's had issues with the dropsies, and Zay Jones, who just hasn't been able to materialize as an NFL wide receiver. Had some big plays for Vegas last year, but outside of that has been pretty quiet. So you know what? If I'm willing to go out there and get myself a little Christian Kirk love, I think he can get the job done. You know what? Yeah, you know what? I'm in on Christian Kirk this season. Well, thanks for listening, and make sure to tune in next time because there are more free agent breakdowns coming at you throughout this offseason period. So you're going to want to make sure you catch all of that. See you next time.